morning. Welcome back to your hometown radio station, AM 1360 KOHU. It's time for the Odds and Ends program here on a Tuesday morning. It's brought to you by Guardian Angel Homes. And we welcome you into the studio. We welcome you as well online at GoHermiston.com and Mixler.com/1360-KOHU. The web stream is powered by Blue Mountain Networks. That's internet at the speed of life. We start a full hour of programming today. At the bottom of the hour, we'll send it out to Delish Bistro for the Chamber Business Connection. Right now, we welcome into the studio with us from the city of Hermiston, the Chief of Police, Jason Edmiston, and the Assistant City Manager, Mark Morgan, joining us. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
How are we doing?
Awesome.
Tired? Why?
It was a marathon last night. Council officially wrapped the gavel at 10:02 p.m.
That's a long meeting. That's a lot of things going on here. Let's quick hit, because it was in the news this morning. Let's start with the Northeast 2nd Street and the district. Now I'm blanking on the exact name. What was formed last night, Mark?
Yeah, so nothing was formed last night, but so these local improvement districts, they take a long time, a lot of process, but ultimately, I'm sure folks will probably remember clear back in the spring we talked about ODOT is planning on installing some additional raised traffic barriers at the intersection of Elm and 395 by McDonald's and Starbucks in that vicinity. So folks probably remember when they put those traffic barricades in on the 395 portion. Used to, if you're going north, you could just take a left straight into Starbucks.
Yeah.
And so they
it's
put
really
those in,
convenient.
Yeah, and it backed things up. It created some interesting traffic activity. So they're going to be doing that same thing now on the Elm portion. So now no longer, I think sometimes you'll see, we do follow the Hermiston Bad Driver Traffic Shaming Facebook page, and you'll see, people are just parked in the travel lane trying to turn left into Starbucks, that type of thing. So ODOT is going to be putting in those traffic barricades on Elm, going past Starbucks all the way past Spruce. And so what that's going to do is it's going to really change the traffic pattern in that entire vicinity there, kind of behind Starbucks. And so what we're working on is constructing Northwest 2nd Street between Cherry and Elm. Right now it's just gravel. Also West Dogwood back there is also just gravel. And so we're developing a project to construct those and pave those in the spring. So one of the ways that we're going to go about financing that with only a portion of taxpayer funds going into it is we're going to be constructing the portion of West Dogwood entirely with taxpayer dollars, and then forming a local improvement district to construct the portion of Northwest 2nd Street. And so we had some action on that earlier this spring. It ultimately got held over, and so now after talking with some of the adjoining property owners to form this local improvement district, they're on board with us forming a local improvement district. And so now coming back at our September 8th council meeting, we'll actually take the action to form that district, and that'll allow us to go ahead and construct Northwest 2nd Street, with most of that cost for Northwest 2nd Street being paid for by the property owners that front onto Northwest 2nd Street.
So what is a local improvement district by definition?
So local improvement district is you create a geographic area for an improvement. Typically it's used for streets, and then you'd say, okay, we estimate the total cost of building this street's going to be, say, $1 million. And so then you'd look at it and say, well, there's 20 properties that front onto this portion of the street, and then we divide that $1 million up by how much frontage each one of those properties has onto that street, and then we would go out, build the project, and then once we're done, it may turn out, hey, guess what, it was only $900,000 to build it. That's the amount that actually then gets assessed for each of those properties to go about paying. And then we have really two ways of paying it. The property owners can just pay their portion of it as a lump sum up front, or the city offers financing for a 10-year repayment plan at whatever our borrowing costs are.
So there will be a portion of this that you take out of, what, general fund or...
Yeah, and so originally, just the portion of Northwest 2nd Street, the LID was going to be 100% paid for by the property owners. When we went back and talked with the property owners after this spring, we did a little bit of negotiation, and so we opted to add $75,000 from the city to help buy down the cost of that project. And so that's what ultimately kind of broke that loose and got the property owners on board with supporting the LID.
Is this going to be paved this season before the batch plants close?
Nope. So we still have to do full design. We'll probably bid it and open bids in mid to late winter. And so we're hoping to get it paved, as one of the earlier projects next construction season.
It's 8:10 here on the Odds and Ends program, brought to you by Guardian Angel Homes today. Assistant City Manager Mark Morgan with us this morning, along with the Chief of Police, Jason Edmiston. This is a transportation project, which leads me to, does the city weigh in? Did anybody testify? Yesterday, the Transportation Committee met in Salem as they get ready for their special session, which has an impact. The ODOT budget has an impact on every municipality, too. Do we wade into that kind of thing here?
No, so the city participates a lot with the League of Oregon Cities, and they tend to represent our interests, city interests out there. There are some, folks who are legislative watchers, I guess you'd say, and follow every machination of the legislature. We don't tend to get into that game.
Do you have an idea of what is the impact of this transportation bill on the city locally?
Yeah, so locally, I think everybody's been focusing on the gas tax portion.
Sure.
That's the part that everybody focuses on. But, kind of on the back end, the part that nobody talks about is every single person in Oregon that works is going to take home 0.1% less in their paychecks every single month to fund public transit. And so that's been an interesting dynamic. When you run those numbers out, it effectively equates to every household in Hermiston, taking home the equivalent of like $10 a month less. And so it's going to have an impact here locally. And so the way that transit portion of the package works is the state collects all of those payroll tax dollars. Then they turn around, and if there isn't a regional transit authority, then they send back 90% of whatever was collected in the county to the county where it was collected. And so then Umatilla County has to turn around and spend that money on transit. Keeping in mind, this entire concept of a payroll tax for transit didn't even exist until 2017. And so, I can remember back in 2018 really, we're all sitting around with the countywide transit group, and all of a sudden there's just money coming out the county's ears. And so we're just standing up all these transit programs that never even existed before. So now we're going to be faced with basically doubling that capacity. So it's a weird dynamic in order to fund transit in the Portland metro. I think what's driving this is, the Portland public transit, system has seen significant ridership declines since COVID. People are just working remotely. They're not riding transit. And so rather than cutting service in Portland, they're choosing to roll out this statewide transit tax to make it palatable and get it passed in Portland. Meanwhile, out here, we're trying to find ways to spend it.
The other piece that I guess brings you in on it, title and registration fees could go up as well. Did your police cruisers, do they all have, if they're public vehicles like that, do they have titles and registrations? Will that all go up?
The yellow plates for the police department, no, those are public. But we do have several regular Oregon registration plates on multiple vehicles. So, yes, that will increase as well.
But, like, the cost of every cruiser doesn't go up to register and things like that, though.
Correct.
Okay. I had formulated a joke a while back about the new extensions of no left turns and stuff. Do you change the bumpering on the front of vehicles so that when somebody high ends on those, you can just pull behind them and push them off at 395 and 207?
Well, I'm not going to joke about anything. But just so the public knows, this is an ODOT project. In essence, they're telling the city, here's what we're doing. And the city is finding ways, forecasting issues with traffic. And what the assistant city managers just mentioned, people are going to find ways to avoid those areas. And so these back roads that are not currently paved, I think, are going to get heavy use.
As far as we'll try to draw a through line to road construction to regular construction and your major construction project. What's the update on the safety center and where you guys are at on a move in?
Yeah, so They are starting insulation. They finished insulation over on the fire side. Should be starting sheetrock over on the fire side. So they're now moving into insulation on the police side, and then follow that with sheetrock as well. We had to push back. We were planning to do the mayor and the council have a tour of the update of the building, and we pushed that back to September 22nd. I believe the second council meeting, we'll do a walkthrough just to give them an update, and I'm hopeful that some sheetrock will be hung so that the rooms are clearly obvious. But right now, this point, we're down to the nitty gritty, and so not a day goes by where I'm not in touch with the contractor, and we're bouncing ideas. Just found out, had a curveball thrown at me yesterday that I wasn't expecting, and so we're working through that. Have a meeting tomorrow with some electricians on some additional placement of plugs and things like that. So it's moving forward. We're still anticipating on the schedule. They're saying mid-January. I think we're still on point for that. More than likely, the police department will be back in there around the 1st of February.
What is when you do get to move back in and you're not as spread out, what is the most significant impact that the public would notice by kind of being reformed and whole?
Yeah, the biggest impact is we're not in 4 different places. I know it's incredibly frustrating for the public. People are showing up at the ARC building where some of us are housed because there may be a patrol vehicle out front. But that is not where the nuts and bolts of the department are at. The nuts and bolts of the department are at the annex building next to the police department. And so I think the public's been very frustrated with the fact that we're in multiple locations. I just continue to encourage the public to call first. The phone numbers are still active. Dispatch, if that's who they contact, they can put them in touch with an officer. Officer can call them. If it requires a face-to-face meeting, so be it. The officers will facilitate that as well. But that'll be the biggest impact. The building itself has a little bit of overbuild in it, not much, but I think just the way that the layout of the police department is structure-wise, we will be set, if you will, for many, many years to come in that building. There is dedicated space in the building for the Drug Task Force that we are allowing them to stay rent-free. Ultimately, somewhere 10, 15, 20 years down the road, if that space is needed, then the police department can take that space and repurpose it how they see fit. Additionally, we are in talks with the FBI about having office space in our building. We look forward to that just with the continued communication. Historically, there have been FBI agents posted in Pendleton, and so having the potential opportunity to have that resource in the west end of the county is exciting.
What does adding that type of resource do for you in law enforcement?
Mainly just communication, especially just having everybody under one roof, be it the Drug Task Force, our investigative unit, our patrol unit. A lot of times there are cases that take place that touch other departments that we may not even be aware of. Same is true with regard to the Drug Task Force, and the FBI potentially may be involved in something that we're just not aware of. But having everybody under the house, or under the same roof, communicating is going to be good.
What type of focus do you have right now for the department?
So we're a young department. We're a much different department than we were 10 years ago. And I meant to crunch the numbers. I will by the next time I come back. At one point, let's say 2 years ago, we were approaching the average age of the sworn officer was like 41 and a half, almost 42 years old. I think just in the last year and a half, we've probably cut that by 8 to 9, maybe even 10 years. So we're a very young department, and with that, I have a meeting this afternoon with the supervisors, 4 brand new sergeants. We have 2 lieutenants in place that are in new positions, and a captain that's in place in a new position, in a new assignment. And just getting everybody on board specific to where we're at. We are budgeted for 38 sworn officers. We currently have 35. We do have 3 potential hires in the works, which will get us up to our staffing level. But more importantly, with the younger department, a lot of the officers may not know how important livability issues are specific to the community we serve. And so this afternoon, talking with the supervisors, we're going to, I hate to sound a little bit cliche, but I want to do a targeted effort, if you will, of livability issues and enforcement for the month of September. We're not really going to promote it just because the $64,000 question anybody's going to ask is, well, why aren't you doing that now? And I would argue we are. It's just a matter of trying to refocus the efforts of the troops. Some people,
could you give some, examples beyond, obviously, traffic, and you've always said that's their number one feedback, complaint, however you want to phrase it, but beyond traffic related?
Yeah, that you name it. Most everything can touch livability in one way or the other. Offensive littering, trespass. We're having issues in parks. I just on my way here, or just before I came here, I texted on-duty sergeant and asked him to make contact with a group, let them know that tomorrow we're going to be starting enforcement in McKenzie Park, specific to the gazebo and the cook shack. We have a partnership with the school district. School district finds value in ensuring the gazebo and the cook shack are available if needed for students. And so, our job is to try to educate people that are in the park that, those particular areas are going to be under rent during the school year. And so, the main complaints we get are noise specific to livability. One of my pet peeves, if you will, is stereo noise. The way the ordinance is written or the law is written, if you can hear stereo within 50 feet, which is not very far away, you could, in essence, write a citation for that. And so we want to let our troops know that, I still value officer discretion, and so I try not to. From the top say thou shalt do X, Y, Z. This, just because it's my pet peeve may not be an officer's pet peeve. And so we don't try to trample on officer discretion. However, the troops need to understand, and I think they do and they will, that livability impacts everybody. The concept of the broken windows theory. You drive through neighborhoods and, you see something that is run down, you're just kind of asking to be a magnet for potential problems.
It's 8:23 on this Odds and Ends program with Jason Edmiston, the Chief of Police, and Mark Morgan, the Assistant City Manager in Hermiston here. The program is brought to you by Guardian Angel Homes. Let's hear from them, and we will continue our conversation on Tuesday morning on KOHU.
When it's time to get your parents the extra care they need, Guardian Angel Homes and their caregivers are by your side to help. Guardian Angel Homes provides several types of care depending on the need of your loved one, including memory and respite care. Along with the diverse care plan, activities, therapy, exercise, and more are provided for residents who become like family. Guardian Angel Homes on 12th Street in Hermiston. Come home to Guardian Angel Homes.
8:24 on the Odds and Ends program, brought to you by Guardian Angel Homes, and we continue this morning. The Chief of Police, Jason Edmiston, and the Assistant City Manager, Mark Morgan, with us this morning on the program. The other two things happened last night. Margaret Saylor got honored. 50 years on the Planning Commission is a pretty impressive number of years to dedicate service to, frankly, anything. But the city itself, what was it? It grew by, it's twice as big as when Margaret Saylor joined the Planning Commission, Mark?
Yeah, and I think that was by area. I think by population it's more than that. I think it was, that we presented her with a map of here's what the city, limit boundaries were when she joined back in the 70s, and then here's what they are now. And I think back then it was like 2,300 acres, and now the city's like 5,800 acres. So.
And about to jump up by another 800 acres.
Exactly, yeah.
Explain the reason for expanding the urban growth boundary to the south by a little more than 800 acres.
Yeah, so one of the numerous hats that I wear is economic development, and so I can remember myself being a fat and happy economic developer back in around 2018 timeframe, where I was sitting on several hundred acres of what you'd consider to be shovel-ready, industrial land down in our South Hermiston Industrial Park, north of Feedville Road. Actively marketing that. Then suddenly we had Meyer Distributing show up. They took down about 40 acres, and then we had several Amazon campuses show up. And now suddenly in 2022 timeframe, we had almost no particularly large-scale industrial land available. So we still have some what you consider to be more smaller scale. And so in this instance, that'd be maybe smaller than about 50 acres. And that can accommodate a lot of different things. Things like Pioneer Seed, is maybe on 20 to 30 acres. The former Hermiston Foods, now Columbia Bioscience, 20 to 30 acres. But for the really large things like, the Walmart Distribution Center, Marlette Homes, these data centers, they need, upwards of 100 acres, those types of things. And so we started a process back in really 2022 timeframe of looking at, okay, if we are to expand our area for industrial growth, where would that most feasibly be? And so we had some industrial development consultants help us with that. They, ultimately returned that, south of Feedville Road, that because there's so many different things that go into industrial development and supplying what's needed in terms of utilities and transportation and all those types of things. But ultimately that returned that, the Feedville Road corridor is probably the best place to go. So then that's when in 2023 we started on developing what we call an economic opportunities analysis. And so that looks at, what are the opportunities, what are the land sizes that aren't available inside of the community that are, if not for an urban growth boundary expansion, the community would be missing out on. And so we developed that through 2023. City Council adopted that in 2024. And so then we've spent about the past 12 months or so going through a process with the Planning Commission, outreach to other communities. And so we've now gotten to the point where we have an urban growth boundary expansion, made it through the Planning Commission, unanimously approved by the Planning Commission at their meeting earlier this month. And then last night the council approved the first reading of the ordinance to expand the UGB and annex the land. So then we'll come back for at our first meeting in September to adopt the second reading of that. Then it'll go on to the County Planning Commission and the County Commissioners, and then ultimately we anticipate having an expanded UGB and additional land inside the city limits by November.
Do you already have the county's going to be on board with this?
I guess I would say the county's been supportive of it through the process. And so I think one of the big components, we've been working with our land use consultants extensively over these past few years. And, sometimes you are kind of left asking yourself, don't these guys work for us? Like they're making this really challenging. But ultimately their job is to make sure that, we want to make sure that you have a UGB expansion that will be, fully accepted by the State Department of Land Conservation and Development. It can avoid any appeals or challenges from any, West Side interests that may want to challenge some things. So I think we're at a position where I think it's a very good, strong, defensible UGB expansion. We're actually asking for less than what the economic opportunities analysis said we needed. So I think we're in a good position that I think the county is going to be supportive of this.
And that's still got a few different votes to get through here before the land's ready. Are there opportunities in the waiting? I mean, will this move pretty quick?
Yeah, and so I think an important component is that this will carry a hyperscale data center overlay, meaning that, when you're doing a UGB expansion, you have to plan for its impact on utilities and transportation and all these things. And so a big component of that work was focused on accommodating the hyperscale data center industry, which we know it doesn't take very long on the internet to find that that's a strong growth sector, globally. And so there's strong demand for that. And so the reason there's a hyperscale data center overlay is, okay, sure, we can expand the UGB knowing the utility and transportation impacts that something like that would have. But if somebody were to show up and say, well, I want to have a 1,000 pig per day, pork manufacturing facility locate down there, you wouldn't be able to do that without going through a significant additional planning process, because that comes with a whole other raft of utility and transportation issues that we'd have to go through at that point.
All right, tough news for bacon lovers here at the end.
Iowa Pork Producers Association.
All right, we appreciate the conversation as ever. Thanks, guys.
Yep.
Thank you.
Mark Morgan, Assistant City Manager. Jason Edmiston, Chief of Police. That's the Odds and Ends program. It's brought to you by Guardian Angel Homes. Out to Delish Bistro next.
When it's time to get